has arrived. The Autometer custom shop gauges for the hot rod. Check out this plaque. Individually crafted for Osvaldo Silveira by the Autometer custom shop. That is pretty cool. You know, I won't be throwing this box away anytime soon. Alright, so here they are. Let's see. Sweet! Look at these things. Full sweep, all electric. I chose the LED color for each of the gauges to be blue. Let's get these out of the box. All the parts. There are the gauges. Alright, let's cut this plastic off. Check these things out. There's the speedo. Fuel level is the one that will work with any sensor. You can set it for volts. The water temperature. Your oil level up to 100 psi. And let me tell you what all those markings are, so if you like it, I'll also write about it in the description below. This is what they'll look like when the LED light is lit up. The pointer color is red. Dial color is black. The font style is Gothic. The pointer hub and tail color is silver. The font color is white. The bezel style on these is street rod bezel. And the ticking style, which is all the little drops, like what looks to be like a teardrop right there, or water droplet, that's called Almond. The bezel color is street rod chrome. The ticking color itself is white, has a domed glass window. The retainer color is black. The flood lighting is blue LED, and the pointer style is old time, with the custom image being a pinstripe. And the pinstripe is... well, I couldn't tell you where the pinstripe is. Take it off to the side. A plethora of stickers. And grommets and hold down thumb screws. One set. 4 sets of those. Instructions for the full sweep electric fuel level. Okay. Oh, there's an optional switch, Radio Shack 2751556, which is an optional switch. I'm sure that's to set for the different sender types. Alright, that's pretty straightforward. Put those instructions for the fuel sender there. These are for the electric pressure gauge. But which one? Oh, I guess oil pressure gauge. I guess that'll go in there. That's if I need the adapter. Alright, let's see. The full sweep electric voltmeter. Pretty straightforward. Ground to the ignition. And then 12 volts from the dash for the instrumentation to power the volts. And then the lighting. I guess the lighting will all be a series of jumpers. Set that one up to the side. This to be the temperature gauge. Oh, cool! Comes with the liquid Teflon, because the tape Teflon on these will give you bad readings because it won't be able to ground properly to the block. From what I've read and seen, also on YouTube. Cool. The wiring harness that goes to that as well. Oh, nice. This is the water temperature gauge, I believe. 0 to, oh no, this is the fuel, the oil pressure. Nice. That's pretty cool. Look at that thing. Well, that's pretty small. I'm used to those really big, monstrous oil pressure sender switches, so I'm glad this one's really tiny. So I guess this is just the water temperature. That's nice. Stickers, I guess, for the cables along the way. Stickers for fuel level. Cool. Oil pressure. Nice. And water temperature. Oh, those are pretty cool. It's good. I have a tea bucket, so probably not going to be using these. Cables will be pretty short to begin with. Ooh, these are the lights. The blue LED. Oh yeah. Nice. There's 4. Oops. That's all I see. 4. Maybe the speedometer has its own lighting already built in. Connections here. This is the 3-prong, which I believe 3-prong, yeah. This one here connects to the oil pressure sending switch. Right there. I'll leave that connected for now. Not sure what this one's for. But they all have, okay, this one connects to the water temperature with this connection. I'll set those out to the side. This is the installation instructions for the TAC Speedo combo. Let's get these stickers out of the way. Oh, yep. Looks like there's already lights here. And I love that these are the new style connections. It's going to be very, I guess, new for me to install anything like this. There should be a large... Oh. I guess I need to buy the connection for this. I'm not seeing that. Let me see. No. This is for the oil pressure. Here's this. I'm not sure what this one's for. This one's for one of these. The second gauge. This is probably voltmeter. Third gauge. This is for the water temperature. For the fourth gauge. So I have connections that plug into these connections right here for 1, 2, 3, 4, but nothing that plugs into here. And I wonder if that's a different connection or a different kit. Let's see. The TAC Speedo instructions. Yeah, I thought there was a plug that would plug right into there. I'd rather have a big plug that I can plug that all in it so it looks nice and OEM in the back. Let me pause the video while I research that. It does not come with it. It's an 8-pin connector. They sell it. It's like $16 and change, and I have to get that, or else I'm going to be just putting a bunch of pins in there. So let me bring out the bezel where all of these are going to go, and we'll go ahead and install them in the bezel, and then maybe we'll start wiring the lighting connectors from one to the other and start prepping the wiring. This is going to be cool. Now just to figure out, they're going to go like this: the speedo tack combo, and then other gauges underneath. Figure the most important gauges are oil pressure and water at the end of the day. So I think I'm going to do the speedo tack, then the water temp, and the bolts will be kind of like the last. Yeah, so I'll do this. I'll do the speedo, and the water temp, and the oil pressure, then the fuel, and then the bolts. Maybe the bolts and the fuel. The fuel will be all the way at the bottom. Because when I run out of fuel in the highway, my head will be hung low, and I'll see it at the bottom. Okay. This is the dash piece. Some people would mount it like that. I'm mounting it like that. Straight up and down, kind of like that center dash in a early 60s Corvette. So first we'll mount them, and then we'll start wiring them. Got the speedo. And I'm just going to do a preliminary mounting, wire them, disconnect all the wires, pull all the gauges out, polish this real nice, and then proceed with the final thing. This isn't doing very good here. I guess I'm going to take this and just give it a little trim here to where it's almost touching this part to the gauge, I mean. But you can see that there's a little gap. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it that much. Let's go ahead and start installing some of the other ones. Next up, I decided was going to be water temperature. So that's the fuel, oil, water. Oh, that looks amazing. So nice. Well, it was definitely worth the wait. It took about 4.5 weeks. Next up, oil temperature. Sorry, oil pressure. Or was the oil pressure first? Let's see, fuel, water, oil. Yeah, oil second. I really wish they would have sent me the 8-pin connector for that. 16 bucks for this kit that cost just a little under 1,300 bucks. You'd think they'd put in the $16 connector that probably, it looks just like the VDO one. The 8-pin looks almost like, I bet you the VDO one would work, and the VDO one is like 9 bucks. Voltage. Nice. And last but not least, fuel. Open up one of these. They do have some of those star washers in these little packs, but this is going to go right into the plastic supports that come behind them, so it's not going to end up needing that. I mean, I guess it's alright to put them on. That way it won't run loose, but I'll be able to always run my hand behind the dash and do that if I ever notice that they're coming loose. It's a T-bucket. tiny. I guess you put them in, you twist, right? Do you? Alright. So they all come in the same with the white, white, white. Alright, so now we got all these together, and I'll be able to make some type of junction between all these. Whether they all go down or they all go up, I'll have to look at the back of the dash to see whether it will be alright to go like this and make the one cable connect to up here, or whether it come down, or what would be the best for spacing behind the dash. And I'm gonna go ahead and trim one of these just a little bit, see if it works for the spacing that we need for this. I wish this had one of these plastic pieces, that would be great. That's interesting. This one fits on the outside, not on the inside. I wonder if this is 3 1/8 and not 3 5/8. Well, unfortunately, it still works. It still works just fine. And the lights are already in here. And these are categorized here as speed, tack, ground, out if you're going to power other gauges with it. 12 volts to this. This is for the lamp, and this is another ground, and 12 volts. I'll have to read to see why there's all these connections, because if it's safe to just run power to one of these 12 volts and then out here or to the lamp and then jump from the lamp over here all the way down, that would be ideal. That'll keep things real nice and neat. Cable and turn them over like that. I'm going to trim this off just with a cutoff, a small Dremel, and I'll be back. Shave this one down just a little bit. Let's see how this works. That will work. I'll make sure I cut it to where I don't see the red mark. File it even, and we'll be alright. Be right back. That's a little crooked. Go take this to the car and see how it's going to fit. Works perfect. And the way that I should wire it in this particular installation is all of these up, and I'll have all the connections move towards the top. So I'm thinking I'll put these 4 gauges together. But I have to leave enough space for me to be able to pull the bulb out, but if I needed to, I can't just make them real tight. So let's see what I'm going to do. what the speedometer one is. Let's see. The ground needs to go to the battery. That's fine. I'll run that. The lamp, just to in-12 volt lighting. Okay. Yeah. So I got a wire going from the dash light, and that's going to go to these, as well as to that one connector here. But I am going to get the 8-pin here, so it's going to be a nice connector. It's going to plug in here and match up with everything else. I'll order that. I'm going to put the link to that connector, my Amazon link, on the description below, as well as any other accessories and stuff, or any of the tools that I'm using today. Alright. Let me get this sorted out. I'm going to pause the video for a minute, and then I'll start the video again when I'm starting to do the wiring. Alright, so I got some tools here. Got my wire strippers, some cutters. I use this so that if the heat shrink tubing is too small, I'll just put the tip in there and kind of just open it up just a little bit. Turn it over, stretch it out, and that'll allow like the front of 2 cables to go in with their sheathing and the insulation, and then just one to come out if I needed to stuff 2 in there. Because the way that I crimp wires is I use the raw connector. I use the raw piece, and then I put heat shrink tubing over the top. I'll show you what these look like. These look like that. This particular ones are for 14 and 16 gauge, and I have other ones that are for larger. I think these are for 1210s. These are for much thinner ones, 2218s. And I use my dad's wire cutters and crimpers. He's had these, well, he got these in 1962 when he joined the Air Force in Texas, and they've served me very well. I don't even clean the rust off of it. These are just they work perfect. I always try to use some of my dad's tools in whatever I do. Alright, so I'm just seeing how I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to put this into the top of the connector, and this one into the bottom of that connector, and then another cable is going to come out. So I'm going to cut this one, right there, and this one's going to be in the connector, and I'm going to put the connector that's going to go into this piece, so I can plug that right into it. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to run this wire into the top. Now what you got to remember when you're using these raw splicers is that you're only putting in a little bit. These things are only this long, so you're only going to about the halfway point. Alright, so this one going down in here and this one going here. These two are going to go together. It's a really good tug. Some people are like, oh no, don't tug it too much. What are you talking about? You gotta tug it. It's gotta be a very positive connection. So this piece will go like that. And then this one will go into the bottom piece. These two will go into the bottom. Then I have to join this one with this one. So there'll be 2 more splices. So let me cut here. And I'll do nice close-ups of all these connections once I'm done. Now you gotta remember to put the heat shrink over the top of the right side here, or else you're gonna end up electrical taping everything, and that's just never nice. No offense to anybody who just Western Unions these things together and puts tape over it. I'm sure it'll last you forever. But on a show car, the judges will rip you to shreds if you see that. Alright, so this is going to go, yeah, these two, this one's going to go into this connection. So this one has to reach all the way over here. Alright, this one's going to go into the bottom of that. These two are together already. Oh, there we go. I'll put this into the other side of this, and another one will come out of here straight into there, and I can use this one for that. So that's perfect. There's nothing like a pandemic to give you extra time in the garage. Although to all you parents out there, like us, we feel for you if you're doing the virtual school. Oh, we're not teachers. We've become teachers. Because no matter how much work the teachers at school are doing on the computer, I expect a 5-year-old to know how to fill out digital forms and do stuff online when some 5-year-olds have never seen a computer. Let me grab, since this is the positive, I'm going to get some of the red heat shrink. Now this one's too small. Alright, I hope that this one shrinks enough. Let's see, I only need to cover about that much. Here. So yeah, so this one and this one are going to go together. This one's way too long. Chop this up. Especially if this one's going to go like that. It also says in the instructions to solder these connections together. I'm totally against the whole soldering part in a car. There's too much vibration, especially a hot rod, for soldered connections. I don't know, I've only been doing it for about 27 years. I can see where it would work sometimes, but man, if I'm not afraid that some of these connections are going to come undone if I solder them. Okay, so I'm going to heat shrink that. I'm going to go get the heat shrink gun. Alright, I've had this Milwaukee brand, but I don't think this is the nice Milwaukee. It's just a cheap thing that I got. I think I got this on J.C. Whitney about 20 years ago. Yeah. This works great. Alright, this one's done. Now we can finish this one. Even in the wiring, there should be some type of uniformity. And then you build. Alright, and that'll lay in there just like that. And then this other piece will go right into the back of that connector. It'll be a tight fit. I hope I crimp it right the first time, because it'll go into that connector and then out of that connector. So this will all sit flush like that into the connector. Let's see which is the connector that's going to be the lamp. So it'll go into a spade connector there, out of the spade connector into the little pull switch on the dash to turn on the lights. Alright, that's where it starts. Here's what it looks like. And this will be like that. Yeah, I could have made this one shorter, I could have put this one a little bit over here, but hey, you win some, you lose some, and at least it's a nice solid connection. And if I have to pull the gauges out for any reason, I can take all these things off and it'll stay as a harness. Now I'm going to switch this into time lapse for a little bit for the wiring. So I did the light portion and then the ground one. And plenty of space here to go into the spade that's going to go into the ground here, and then jump from there to the battery. Same thing with here to go into the one that goes to the lamp, and then jump from that spade over to the light switch on the dash. So now I'm going to start plugging these in, and it's trying to just kind of organize the wiring that's going to go there. Now mind you, in order for me to install this in the center of my dash, the center of my dash used to have gauges mounted on it with just holes, and it did not have the space for this. So I will have to remove all the wiring, remove all the gauges, put the trim in with these threaded bolts that I had put in here many years ago, and then once this is in, then put in the gauges, secure them with the brackets in the back, and then connect the wiring harness to the back. But it's a lot easier to work all this out first, get it nice and clean and trim to where I need to, and then dismantle it all and put it back in. That way I'll have, once I polish this out, I'll put it in the dash and it won't have to be touched again. I'll put tape around it, install all the gauges, and it will stay nice and clean and finished up until the interior gets done in the convertible top. Alright. Well, one thing I like to do is when I finish all the gauges, I'll write my name and the date on all the gauges when I install them. Alright, back to work. As I started reading the instructions for the temperature gauge, and I grabbed the harness that's going to go into it. The other side of the harness is going to go into the water temperature sender that's going to be put into the manifold up in the front of the engine. And there's the black for the ground and the red. The red is going to be to the 12 volt always on connection, and the white one, where is the white connection? Okay, it says here for standard incandescent lit instruments with a bulb, the white would go to the 12 volt dash lighting, which is this one. But for LED, internal LED lit instruments, the white would go to the dash, and the red and black would go to the 12 volt always on connection, and the black would go to a good engine ground. Alright, so let's open this up. Now remember, all this is preliminary. I'm going to wire all this up. I'm going to test it on the bench, bring a 12 volt battery, light up the lights. Okay, so this will plug in here. This is our water temperature. great. And this has 4 wires coming out of it. When you follow this, you end up with a red and a black. Black will go to ground. The red will go to your key ignition, so the always on. And these two continue on to the plug that's going to be in your engine bay. So it's plugged in there. Is the water temperature, and next up is going to be the oil pressure. But the water temperature one at the other end of this, you have just 12-volt ignition on and a good battery ground, or a good engine ground actually. Engine ground is be more important. Then I have both engine grounds and battery grounds behind the dash. Then this is the plug that's going to go into the temperature sender, which is this little thing right here. And there's no way to get it wrong. I'm just going to be able to put it in there. Click, and that's it. Put this back in there. Don't forget to use the liquid Teflon, not the roll around tape, because this has to make an engine connection. This has to make a ground. You have all whatever adapters you might need there. I currently have a mechanical one with the probe going into the manifold, but I'll be switching to all electronics since apparently in the last 15 years they've gotten very reliable. Now this is pretty long. I don't think I'd want to cut it. Oh, this does have a... Nah. I'm not going to try to do that. Because I'm going to be able to run this underneath. Let's see. Alright. Yeah, I guess inside of a wire loom of sorts, you can kind of give this kind of a couple of little ties like that. And just slowly bend it down and have that be inside the wire loom. Get a wire loom that's just a little bit bigger than what you're thinking of getting. And if you don't want to make it that thick, for instance, here I went 1 bend, 2 bends, 3 bends, 4 bends, and it makes it pretty thick where I can do this. I can get rid of the same amount of cable if I only did 2 bends. Right? Now it's a lot thinner, and it might fit in the really small wire loom. So just might give that a try if you need to shorten up the cable, but I wouldn't cut it. Alright. The ignition and the ground will definitely be cut, but let me just lay these off to the side like that first. Alright, oil pressure. Oil pressure is going to be this one. So this will screw into the back of the engine for the oil pressure. Set that aside. And then, now this one in the instructions says the same thing that it said in the water temperature one, which says for a standard incandescent lit instrument, you'd wire that white cable to the 12-volt dash, but if it's an LED for lighting with internal LED lit instruments or an LED, the white would go along with the red, but you'd want to fuse the red before it goes to the ignition. The red from these gauges will each individually be fused. I have several spots on my fuse panel that are for ignition on or constant run that are not being used for things like air conditioning, power windows, power top, things that I don't have on my car. So I'll go ahead and run these wires to individual of those fuses, and then I'll rename the diagram of my fuse panel that I have behind my back seat, and that way I'll always be able to find them. So this one's pretty straightforward. Black to ground, red to fused connection, and the other two go to the oil pressure sending switch. So that's pretty straightforward. In there. And off it'll go. Alright, just curl these up just to make it a little bit cleaner. This very simple one that only has a red and a black is of course the voltmeter. Alright, just make sure you connect that to a nice good solid run 12 volt ignition and a good solid engine ground. And last but not least, the fuel sender. The fuel sender has all kinds of connections. This is full sweep fuel sender. The black goes to a good engine ground, the red to a 12 volt connection. Make sure you fuse it. This connection has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connections. You have the ground. Let's go ahead and plug that in. Alright, let's see what we have here. We have some shorties. The black is the ground. The red is for the 12 volt ignition with the fuse. The white we know will go to the same 12 volt run ignition, so they're always on when the ignition's on. They're LEDs, they're not going to pull any voltage from your car. The purple connects to the fuel level sender and make sure the sender is grounded. And my sender is in fact grounded. And that's the purple. That's the really long cable. The purple one is a good 7 feet longer than any of these, and these on their own are about 4 feet long. That's the purple. There are two, oh, there's also a black and a brown. And the black and the brown, you would hook up to an optional Radio Shack 275-1556. The brown and the black wires are used to set the sender type. The gauge ships pre-programmed to read the 0 to 90 ohm senders. If you're using a 0 to 90 ohm GM sender, separately insulate the ends of the brown and the black wires with electrical tape and then coil them up under the dash. If any other sender type is required, connect the Radio Shack 275-1556 or equivalent momentary switch to the black and brown wires, or alternately touch the strip ends of the black and brown wires to simulate pushing the button. Press and hold the button and apply power to the gauge. The pointer will then sweep back and forth, stopping momentarily on each 1/8 tank mark, indicating that the gauge is in the sender select mode. Allow the pointer to move to the appropriate location on the dial per the sender select chart. See the next page. And here it's a select chart. So I guess I'll look at my receipts, see what type of sender I bought. I think I bought a 240-33 if I'm not mistaken. So when the send pointer is in the half position, that's where it's at. Okay. And there's instructions on how to do a custom sender calibration if your sender is not outlined in the select chart above. Alright. Cool. So next up, I'm going to coil this up, leave this alone. I'm going to go ahead and install this in the engine and the water temperature sender in the engine. I'll be happy to do that because I've had some mechanical ones plugged in there just hanging out of the engine bay for months while I've been doing my tests. Here's what they look like lit. Now tell me that ain't pretty. That's nice. Very, very cool. Alright. Speedo is the only thing I need. I'm going to go ahead and place my order for that 8-pin connector. Saw it lit up. It looks absolutely beautiful. I actually wish that the pointers were internally lit. Like if they would have made the pointers the same as their new Chrono series, where the pointers themselves are lit, man, that would have been a totally different type of gauge. I mean, like the saying goes, it would have been a game changer. I'm sure that's pretty simple for them to do now that they have the Chrono series, but oh well, we'll take it how it is. It's nice. So alright, in the next video I'll start off by, I will have already gotten the 8-pin connector and started wiring it, and then I'll start by installing the oil pressure sending switch and the temperature sending switch along with its adapter using the right grease. Oh sorry, the right Teflon. And same thing over here. Well, this is an MPT, so this will just go in like a regular pipe thread, and then we'll run the wires, and we'll already have this in the dash, and start fiddling with all of these connectors and stuff. Alright, if you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of all the new videos, and they're all related to hot rods, sometimes the Mini Cooper stuff for my Mini Countryman and the stuff that I do to it, but a lot of stuff is going to be hot rod related. And I'm going to transfer some old hot rod videos that I had many years ago on another channel, on my personal channel, over to this channel, since it's going to be more auto related and not motion picture and camera related. Alright, thanks again. There we are, the custom Autometer gauges from the custom shop at Autometer. They look fantastic, they light up great. Still want those pointers lit up in maybe a future edition once I'm a millionaire. Alright, thanks again. See you next one.